February 23, 1944. 25,000 feet above occupied Germany. Outside temperature, minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside the cockpit of B-17 Flying Fortress, Yankee Doodle. 23-year-old Lieutenant John Morgan from Ohio checked his instruments one more time. 300 bombers surrounded him in formation, all heading toward the Messerschmitt aircraft factory in Regensburg. In 4 minutes, his bomber would become a flying coffin, but he wouldn't abandon his crew. The mission had started normally at 0600 hours at Thorpe Abbotts Air Base in England. Morgan's crew consisted of 10 men. Co-pilot Lieutenant James Chin from California. Navigator Lieutenant Robert Walsh from Massachusetts. Bombardier Staff Sergeant David Klein from New York. Flight Engineer Technical Sergeant Frank Russo from Pennsylvania. Radio Operator Staff Sergeant William Hayes from Texas. Ball Turret Gunner Sergeant Michael O'Brien from Illinois. Waist Gunners Sergeant Thomas Rivera from Arizona and Sergeant Charles Anderson from Michigan. Tail Gunner Sergeant Henry Jackson from Georgia. They'd flown 15 missions together. Today would be their 16th. B-17 Flying Fortresses earned their name. 4 Wright Cyclone engines, 13 50 caliber machine guns, maximum bomb load of 8,000 pounds, cruising speed 180 miles per hour. The aircraft could absorb tremendous punishment and still fly. But pilots learned quickly that could absorb didn't mean would survive. The formation crossed into German airspace at 0943 hours. Morgan scanned the sky constantly. Luftwaffe fighters could appear from any direction. The clear winter sky offered perfect visibility, which meant German radar had tracked them since takeoff. Somewhere below, fighter squadrons were scrambling. At 0957 hours, the intercom crackled. "Bandits, 11 o'clock high." Jackson's voice from the tail position. Morgan's stomach tightened. Here they come.
Focke-Wulf FW-190s dove through the formation like wolves attacking a herd. Their cannons blazed. Tracer rounds streaked past Morgan's windscreen. The B-17 shuddered as bullets punched through aluminum skin. Behind him, Russo's top turret guns roared, ejecting hot brass casings that bounced off Morgan's flight boots. The first wave passed. Morgan did a quick check. "Damage report." One by one, his crew called in. Minor hits, nothing critical. They'd been lucky. At 10:12 hours, the second wave hit harder. This time, Messerschmitt Bf-109s joined the attack. They came from multiple angles simultaneously, a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm the formation's defensive firepower. Morgan held his course steady. Bombardiers needed stable platforms to hit targets. Evasive maneuvers would scatter the bomb pattern. An explosion erupted 50 feet to Morgan's left. A B-17 designated Memphis Belle II took a direct cannon hit to the No. 3 engine. The engine exploded in a ball of orange flame. The bomber nosed down and fell away, spinning toward the earth below. Morgan counted 3 parachutes. 7 men didn't make it out. At 10:18 hours, disaster struck Yankee Doodle. A Bf-109 made a head-on pass, its cannons firing at point-blank range. 20-millimeter shells tore through the bomber's nose section. The plexiglass nose shattered. Klein, the bombardier, died instantly. Walsh, the navigator, took shrapnel to his chest and collapsed over his desk. The shells continued through the bombardier compartment, ripping into the cockpit floor. Morgan felt the control column kick violently in his hands. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the instruments. The No. 2 engine burst into flames. Then the No. 1 engine started smoking. Both engines on the left wing compromised.
The aircraft immediately lost altitude and began falling out of formation. Chen fought the controls beside him. "We're losing pressure! Hydraulics are gone!" The co-pilot's voice remained steady despite the crisis. They'd trained for this, but training never fully prepared anyone for reality. Morgan made his assessment in seconds. 2 engines out. Hydraulic system destroyed. Flames spreading along the left wing. They were 90 miles inside enemy territory. The bomber was dying. Protocol was clear. Ring the bailout bell, evacuate the crew, save as many lives as possible. But there was a problem. The intercom system had been damaged in the attack. Morgan couldn't communicate with the entire crew. Some crew members in the rear of the aircraft had no idea how bad the damage was. If Morgan rang the bailout bell and jumped immediately, crew members in the tail section might not have enough time to reach their escape hatches before the aircraft entered an uncontrollable spin. Morgan looked at Chen. The co-pilot understood without words. Someone had to keep the bomber level long enough for everyone to escape. And that person was the aircraft commander. "Get them out," Morgan said quietly. "I'll hold her steady." Chen hesitated for only a second. Then he unbuckled his harness and headed toward the rear of the aircraft to physically alert the crew members who couldn't hear the bailout order. Morgan was now alone in the cockpit of a bomber that was actively burning. The left wing fire intensified. Flames crawled toward the fuselage. Morgan could feel the heat through the cockpit wall. The number 2 engine had become a blowtorch. Thick black smoke poured from the cowling. The aircraft wanted to roll left. Morgan had to use all his strength on the control column to maintain wings-level flight. 60 seconds passed. Morgan's instruments showed the bomber losing altitude at 500 feet per minute. He fought to keep the nose up. If the aircraft nosed over, it would enter a dive that no one could pull out of. The crew members still inside would be trapped by centrifugal force. 90 seconds. Morgan glanced back through the cockpit door. Chen was moving through the fuselage, grabbing crew members, pushing them toward escape hatches. Rivera and Anderson, the waist gunners, were already gone. Good. 2 down, 7 to go. The fire reached the fuel tanks in the left wing. The entire wing became an inferno. Metal skin peeled away in strips. Morgan could see the internal structure of the wing through gaps in the burning aluminum. The wing was going to fail. When it did, the bomber would flip over and spin. Anyone still inside would die. 2 minutes. The aircraft dropped through 19,000 feet. Oxygen deprivation wasn't a concern anymore, but the loss of altitude meant German fighters could reach them more easily. Morgan scanned the sky. No fighters visible. They'd moved on to other targets. Small mercy. Chen appeared in the cockpit doorway. "Everyone's headed for the hatches." The co-pilot moved to his seat, reaching for his parachute. "Let's go." Morgan shook his head. "Not yet. Count to 30. Make sure they're clear of the aircraft before it goes down. Then you jump." "John, we don't have 30 seconds. "Then make it 20. Now go." Chen grabbed his parachute and disappeared. Morgan was completely alone. 3 minutes. The bomber passed through 17,000 feet. The fire had consumed most of the left wing. The structural spars were glowing red. Morgan felt the wing flexing. It was about to separate from the fuselage.